Is this the weirdest LMG in Battlefield 5? Well, maybe. One of the new 3 weapons in the chapter of Tides of War is the Type 11 LMG. This is a Japanese LMG that has a pretty distinctive look to it, and it sounds nice too. Unsurprisingly, the weapon was designed by famed Japanese arms designer Kojiro Nambu, and he was known for making the Type 38, Type 44 and Type 99 Arisaka rifles, as well as the Type 94 Nambu pistol and the Type 100 SMG, and that's just a few of them. Let's say that he made a lot of the more well-known Japanese weapons from World War II. Now when you see this gun, the first thing you'll notice is its weird design. The most prominent part is the detachable hopper on the left hand side, but you can only really appreciate it when you see the reload in operation. Check this out, there's some nice animation work going on here, and bear in mind there are a few different reload options here too, but it depends actually on what specializations you go for, but we'll get into that shortly. Essentially you either replace the entire hopper, which takes more time, or if you go for a reload spec, you can replace individual round strips for a quicker reload. And even if the gun itself isn't all that good, I do like to see weapons in this game that have something unique to them, something that we don't always see, even if it's a bit of a daft design, at least it's something different. In real life, in the field, this meant that any squad mate could supply ammunition, and if needed, the hopper could be replaced and fully replenished at any time. In that respect, it seemed like a smart design choice. Thankfully, the rest of the weapon looks cool as well. The barrel is relatively short, but combine those visuals with the sound and you've got a gun that's actually quite satisfying to use in Battlefield 5. It's not all roses with the design though. Apparently, one of the big issues with the hopper was that it allowed dirt and grit to enter the gun quite easily, which isn't exactly ideal for your typical muddy or dirty war conditions. Supposedly this led to a lot of jamming with the weapon, which gave it a bad reputation within the Japanese army. The other issue is quite an obvious one when you think about it. When the gun was fully loaded, because the hopper was over one side of the weapon, it meant that the gun felt very unbalanced to use. After all, this is an LMG, so the ammunition is not small and light like an SMG. To fix this though, the buttstock was designed in a way that it bent to the right. I guess the initial design decision, while seeming to fix one problem, simply created more. And thankfully when it comes to video games, we don't have to deal with unbalanced weapons, at least in terms of weight, or deal with weapon jams, at least in Battlefield. When it comes to the in-game stats, the Type 11 has a rate of fire of 510 rounds per minute and then a 30 round magazine. There are no specializations here that improve either the rate of fire or the magazine size, so immediately that may put some people off. Already you've got a few other options available to you, like the Lewis gun for example, that's got a rate of fire of 540 and a 47 round magazine, even more if you get the extended. The BAR has a fast firing rate, but of course a small magazine size at only 20. But in terms of rate of fire for the Type 11 LMG, it's got the slowest rate out of all of the LMGs in the game. Of course, firing rate isn't always what's most important, even if it feels like it is right now. Remember the Shosho from Battlefield 1, that was a slow firing gun, but it packed a real punch, and this I think is something similar. So how did I like to use this in game then? Well, I tended to play at a bit of a distance with the 3x scope, just putting some bullets down range seemed to do the trick, but the slow rate of fire absolutely cost me more than a few kills. Sometimes I just couldn't do enough damage on someone before they got back behind cover. And this is just how the game is at the moment. When you play with the assault rifles quite a lot, and especially the new SMGs, you get used to how quick they kill, and then you try out one of these new slow firing LMGs and it really is a hard crash back down to earth. There are always going to be players who love playing as support and love either the LMGs, MMGs or shotguns. But for the most part, I'm not sure DICE has given players a very good incentive to play support in Battlefield 5. It just doesn't have a lot going for it. Assault has got some great weapons and of course anti-tank, so it has a real use to it. Medic on the other hand, well, they've got some really good weapons right now and of course can either heal and revive teammates infinitely or heal themselves, which seems to be the case most of the time. Recon just have some really powerful bolt action rifles, but when it comes to support, despite having a couple of anti-tank measures, it doesn't always feel that useful to play that class most of the time, at least to me. I think it's my least favourite in the game. The addition of the BAR, that was probably one of the things that I was most looking forward to, and it was the main reason for me to play support. But the BAR I think is outclassed now in many circumstances. Either way, the downsides of the support class, maybe that's a topic for another day, another video, but when it comes to the Type 11, I found it more than capable without being particularly outstanding. It got the job done, but not really any better than any of the other LMGs that you're going to be using. One thing I will say though is that the hipfire felt really good. I had quite a few instances when I was pushed up close and I was able to get that kill with hipfire, which is something that you aren't always able to do with most of the other LMGs in the game. So let's move on to the specializations that I went for on this gun, because we can also talk a bit about the reload with these too. When it comes to the specs, I just opted for all the way down the right, but depending on if you want the improved reload, you may want to consider the left hand tree as well. Right hand will give you quick aim and then improved accuracy while aiming, and then ported barrel, which gives you less horizontal recoil. The main spec that you might want on the left hand side though is the top up spec, and I mentioned this earlier, but this gun is unique because it has a hopper on the side of the gun that houses those strips of ammo. As standard, if you reload, then your character will take off the entire hopper and reload it with another one. This isn't hugely time consuming, but it's certainly the longer reload option. So if you go for the top up spec when you're reloading from a non-empty mag, you will instead reload with stripper clips with 5, 10, 15, 20 or 25 shots left in the magazine. Let's say you're somebody who's unfortunate to have the compulsive reload syndrome, like me, and you've used 5 bullets and you want to reload. Well, you can do it and your character will simply load one strip back in. Now, I personally love these animations and the variations in them, but it really does depend on your playstyle if you want to utilize it or not. I actually reload quite a lot, definitely too much, so this could be an incredibly useful spec for me, and I may try it out down the line, but for now I went with the improved accuracy. The last spec on the left hand side is quite interesting too. It gives you high velocity bullets that help you hit moving targets at range, and with this gun it could be very useful because of the slow rate of fire. Might be easier, but just worth bearing in mind. After the release of the M2 carbine and the M37 shotgun, this LMG was unfortunately the last weapon, it seems, for this Tides of War, at least the ones that we know about. It looks like cosmetic items will form the rest of the Tides of War weekly chapters as well as rank skips, but fingers crossed there'll be some surprises here and during the next 12 weeks. Ultimately, the Type 11 LMG, for me, it's the best gun in the game because it's got something that no other gun has. It's got a spoon. So if you're out on the battlefield, there aren't any utensils around, and you fancy a scoop of ice cream or a bowl of your favourite cereal, Type 11's got you covered. Just might be a bit awkward to use. With that said, that's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave a like if you liked the video, a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.